All right, guys, let's talk about imaginary numbers today. So, one of the most famous imaginary numbers we want to start out with talking about is taking the square root of a negative number. So, if you've ever tried to take a square root of a negative number, let's just try it on the old calculator here. Let's take the square root of anything. We'll say like negative 9. The square root of negative 9, and the calculator does not like that, okay? So, we learned early on that we can't take the square root of a negative number. At least we can't get a numerical answer to that. But there's lots of areas of math where we need to be able to work with square roots of negative numbers and be able to continue on and solve for something that's involved in that equation or that expression or something like that. So we need to know how to deal with these. So let's just take a look here at a way to get around this. Okay, so here's how we do it. Let's just start with something that we know how to do. Okay, so let's take like the square root of 9. Okay, that's a nice perfect square. Square root of 9 gives us 3, right? And technically, anytime we take the square root of a number, we get a positive and a negative version of that, right? So 3 times 3 gives us 9. And also negative 3 times negative 3 gives us 9. All right, let's keep going here. Let's add to this. All right, let's try to take the square root of negative 9. Okay, well, we can't take the square root of a negative 9, so we have to find a workaround. Okay, so the workaround is and if you've done very much work on simplifying radicals, this is kind of a concept we're going to use. So we're kind of gonna manipulate this. All right, so instead of calling this square root 9, instead of calling it square root negative 9, let's split this square root up into the square root of 2 numbers, and let's pull a negative 1 out of that 9. So let's call it the square root negative 1 times the square root 9. Now this still holds true, right? The square root negative 1 times the square root 9 gives us the square root negative 9. So we still have the same thing here. This expression and this expression, they are equivalent to each other. Now what we've come up with is a way to represent the square root of negative 1. We just simply call it I. Okay? And then we can go ahead and take the square root of 9, which is 3. Okay, and we still got the times between them. And typically we like to put our real number in front. It's kind of like our coefficient on a variable term. And then we just go ahead and make that a little bit nicer written as 3 times I, or just call it 3I. So that's a workaround, right? So let's do a couple more. Let's say maybe we got the square root of, let's say something that's not a perfect square. Let's go like the square root of maybe negative 8. Okay, let's go ahead and work towards simplifying this. All right, let's pull the negative 1 out. We'll call it square root negative 1 times square root 8. Okay, and then we're going to call him I times square root 8, but we can actually split square root 8 up. We can simplify that into square root 4 times square root 2, right? And we got I still, right? And this is going to be 2. And then this is going to be square root 2, right? Multiplied all together. And to make this a little bit nicer, we'll just go ahead and call this 2 times I, or 2I, square root 2. And technically, I forgot to put my plus or minus on that answer, right? Technically, anytime we square root. So at this point up here, really at the point that we square root anything, we get a plus or a minus answer on it. So same thing up here. We should have had a plus or a minus on that answer as well. So there you go. There's a little bit of practice dealing with imaginary numbers. I hope this helps.